It's time you peasants learn your place. You think you can just gallivant about your town and city and state and country, guzzling fossil fuels and spreading your diseases, your COVID-19? Harumph, I say, us wealthy elites. We are the privileged few who are entitled and smart enough to know how to properly run this planet. And I'm kidding, by the way. Obviously, it's a bit. But I tell you, the Great Reset's truly something crazy and scary. And guess what? Regular people won't be standing for it. Now, this story is as spicy as they come. Okay, well, maybe not as spicy as they come, but it's as spicy. Check this out. Defiant NYC bar owner struck deputy with his car. Wow. I almost want to go in and alter. You can inspect the element of the page and change text around. I'd like to change deputy to oath breaker. That's like my new thing, like the cops who violate their oath to uphold the Constitution, oath breakers. Okay, so this dude, I don't think he intentionally ran down a deputy, but he ran over a deputy. This is the guy who's been opening his bar in Staten Island in defiance of Cuomo's edict. As the people in Staten Island rightly point out, these are not laws. The sheriffs who are showing up are not law enforcement officers. They're more like Cuomo's Praetorian Guard. Cuomo does not have the power or the right to just dictate what you can or can't do. It doesn't exist. And any one of these oath breakers who wants to come out are breaking the law. I'd love to see someone who's upholding their oath, a law enforcement officer, arrest these deputies for unlawful imprisonment or confinement or something like that. Here's the story. But I want to tell you something. What's the real gist of all of this? It's the Great Reset, my friends. Take a look at this from The Guardian. How the Great Reset of capitalism became an anti-lockdown conspiracy. They're just flat out saying it now. We are trying to reset global capitalism because they don't want the serfs to go around using their resources. Have you figured it out yet? Let me make it very clear for you. You are a peasant. You produce the widgets by which the establishment elites, the smart privileged few, can facilitate their existence. That's what they want for you. And that's what is already here. Why? I mean, while bar owners who are struggling to make ends meet, business owners, the woman in California who said, my bar, my restaurant is shut down. They won't let me have outdoor seating, but right next to us is a movie production theater because you are a serf. And so long as you follow the rules, the Praetorian Guard won't beat the crap out of you. Well, in one instance, one of these oath breakers got hit, got literally run over. But I want to make it very, very clear for you, okay? Here we go. Pete Davidson rips Staten Island anti-COVID-19 lockdown. Babies on SNL. That's right. The wealthy celebrity guy on TV, dating that famous lady or whatever his bit is. This guy who's got money and got little to worry about can go onto TV and say, shut your mouth, you whiny little baby. Take what you deserve. Dr. Fauci recently said that Americans have an independent spirit, but it's time to do as you're told. Don't believe me? Well, all of this stuff is happening, and they can call it a conspiracy, but my friends, welcome to the UK. High-value business travelers to be exempt from quarantine in England. That's right. High-value business travelers. Well, I'll tell you something. When all of this lockdown stuff started, I'm exempt because I'm an essential worker. That's right. Because I go on the internets and I talk about my feelings. That's media. And media is essential. It really is. No joke. So I was able to travel across the country and do my thing. And I think it is essential. I do. I mean, especially considering I'm pushing back on a lot of these extremist narratives and probably will get banned at some point because it's not the essential that they had planned on. But it's really hard to suppress the bad media without suppressing the good media, though they do it anyway. They do it through cancel culture and other BS garbage, leftist strategies. Did you see this? High value business travelers to be exempt from quarantine. They're telling you what they're doing. They're telling you that you, the lowly worker, now this is Europe, mind you, and we here are Americans with the Constitution. This would probably lead to riots, but we're already basically getting it. Look, see what they're saying in the UK? If you're a rich, high-value individual, you're exempt. You see what's going on with the bar owner in LA, where this woman is not a part of the club. It's basically the same thing. The rich and wealthy connected Hollywood industry productions, people like Pete Davidson and Chris Evans and these other leftist, sycophantic, authoritarian lunatics, they're exempt. Of course, they're going to suckle the teat of the state and lick the boots of the oath breakers because they know they'll be fine. It's one of the biggest problems any society or any culture has. When you have a crisis and food is on the line and your home is on the line, your bare necessities, the hierarchy of needs. Many of these police officers and law enforcement officers will absolutely do whatever it takes to get for themselves. Now, I can't blame them. You know, you're looking at these other people and they're all screaming and starving. And you're sitting there saying, better them than me. At least I'll get my food from the state. The only problem is we're not dealing with a natural disaster, the likes of which the world is on fire. We're dealing with a natural disaster, the likes of which the government has mandated all of these things be shut down. They've caused the economic strife. And the only reason there is strife is because oath breakers are willing to come out and pretend to be cops. Oh, I know. I can hear the left saying, dude, they are cops. All cops are bad. No, there are many sheriffs who have said, F off. We ain't going to do it. There are many places in this country that are free. There are many sheriffs who say we won't be enforcing many of these laws, but it's becoming extremely, extremely tribal. There's a meme going around where it's like the left screaming that sheriffs won't enforce lockdown and then praising sheriffs who won't enforce deportation orders and things like that. Yeah, because it's tribalism. And that's what's the scariest thing about all of this, I guess. I look at this stuff. And this, we got to read this story. Look at this. Defiant NYC bar owner. He ran. Look at running over a deputy. Woo! Apparently the cop was like, the oath breaker, was hanging from the hood of the vehicle. I was actually going to do a segment on these fights that are breaking out. I think I'm going to save that for 4 because this was a part of it, right? So there are brawls breaking out. There was a football game. This is crazy where the guys were, one team was waving Blue Lives Matter. The other side took a knee and they all started fighting each other. Just breaking out and fist fighting. There have been many things like this where it says to me like people are ready to snap. But there's something else here. I thought this had to have its own segment. High value people are allowed to travel. Hollywood celebrities are allowed to have their food services. But the lowly serfs, they're being told to sit down, shut your mouth. It's not about climate change and it's not about COVID. Okay. If it was about COVID, we would be doing a lot more to protect the vulnerable and a lot less to punish the not vulnerable, the invulnerable, the people who aren't at risk. Instead of giving us a quarantine where the sick people stay home, they're giving us a mandated lockdown and telling you are no longer allowed to do many things. In California, they issued a stay-at-home order. You can't leave your house. They are strangling out the poor, transferring the wealth to the elites. You know, I've had these conversations where it's like, but what about global warming? It's a problem. I think so. But if you mean to tell me that right now, your solution is sacrifice people and strangle them and transfer the wealth from the poor to the wealthy, I'm sorry, that's just psychotic. The ends don't justify the means because you will never meet the ends. Without humanity and our ability to love and live freely, then what's the point of preserving any of it if we become authoritarian, despotic, Borg-like cultures or society? Why bother succeeding if we just become a masochistic and oppressive machine that generates nothing but suffering? Now, I think there's things we can do to help the planet. This ain't it. Let me finally actually read the story. The co-owner of a New York City bar that authorities said has been defying COVID restrictions was taken into custody early Sunday after running over a deputy with his car. Danny Presti fled from his bar, Max Public House, after deputies observed patrons entering the establishment Saturday night in violation of the city and state closure orders. Sheriff Joseph Fucito said, Oath breaker, Joseph Fuchito said. Oath breakers attempted to arrest Presti. Oath breakers attempted to kidnap Presti as he left the bar early Sunday. Presti got into his car, struck an oath breaker, and kept driving for about 100 yards, even as the oath breaker was left hanging onto his hood, Fuchito said. Listen, I don't think he intentionally did it, but that's bad. Come on, man. We don't want to hit people with cars. We don't want violence. We don't want this to break down. But you know what? There's nothing to be said. There's no answer. I can sit here and say, people, please be calm, follow the orders and all that stuff. But when people are suffering, when people have no food and no shelter and everything they own and their lives are being destroyed, then at a certain point, it is unreasonable to expect someone to just say, okay, I'll die. That's why I'm a center-left. I lean center-left on a lot of issues. I've had these conversations. What about if someone is hungry, so they steal food? Yeah, you get a slap on the wrist for that. And we have EBT programs. We have welfare programs because we understand people need food. And it's better to spend a little bit of money giving someone food than it is to spend the money to incarcerate or watch them suffer and die. It's tough. It really is. And what I'm saying with EBT stuff, it's not even a solution to the problem and can absolutely make things worse. It's rough. It's hard to figure out. But what we don't want is violence. But I'll tell you this. When you have violence coming from the state against innocent people, what do? Again, I can already hear the left saying, wow, Tim, sounds like Black Lives Matter. There's a big difference between probabilistic circumstance and tragedies. What I mean by this is we ask the police to keep us safe. We give them weapons because sometimes people, attack them and they should defend themselves, especially when they're dealing with criminals, violent ones who have no regard for human life. Sometimes the tragic things happen. We don't throw the whole system out because of a margin of error. And I know I'm not trying to be callous by saying margin of error. I'm saying there are a lot of stories where I'm upset. I believe Philando Castile was his name. Legal gun owner pulled over and the cop shot him. The guy was a legal gun owner. That's insane. I think a cop like that should just have their gun taken. That's a simple solution, or just relieved of duty, because it's an unfortunate circumstance. The murderous intent isn't there. It's the cop isn't a criminal. He's just really bad at his job, and that's tough. But I'll tell you, when the state starts oppressing people, I'll be the first to scream about it. 100%. I was there during Occupy Wall Street complaining about the police who were making up frozen zones. And I'll be here today when they're locking down small business. The state is sending out oath breakers. These are men and women who claim to enforce the law, but they're not enforcing any laws. That's why I can't call them cops. They're not enforcing laws. These edicts that came from the mouth of Cuomo, many of them found to be completely unconstitutional. So what are these cops doing? They're corrupt and taking cash in exchange to break the law. Sounds like they're now the criminals. We have a law. They're in violation of it, and they're getting paid by the government to do it. This is a corrupt system. Here's the problem. When you have two factions fighting, I can say all day and night, please, we need peace. But this means the government needs to stop the draconian lockdowns and bring these oath breakers, out of the fray. And we also don't want this guy driving his car and hitting a deputy. They say Presti 34 was eventually stopped and apprehended, the sheriff said. Charges against him were pending. The injured oathbreaker was taken to a hospital for treatment of injuries. The oathbreaker's condition wasn't immediately available. An email seeking comment was sent to an attorney representing the bar's owner. The Staten Island bar was the site of protests last week, and this we understand. What do you do when elements of the state are suppressing, oppressing, injuring individuals and using the threat of force, violence, and even murder to get what they want, and then people not even fighting back? Like, it doesn't sound like this guy was trying to hurt anybody. It sounds like he was fleeing in his car and he hit one of the oathbreaker guys. His charges are pending, but this is where things start getting extra spicy. These lockdowns, you can't just expect people to just lay back and do nothing and just sit there and be like, okay. Here's a tweet from Ruthin T Boots on Twitter. I think this is just a President Trump supporter, lots of followers. Mac's public house has decided to no longer tolerate tyrannical orders. And there's the video of people hanging out inside this bar, close proximity. Look at that. Someone's wearing a mask. A lot of people are not wearing masks. You know what? I think people just don't care anymore. And if they choose to be around this, well, then it's their fault. It's funny when the left says, you don't have the right to get me sick. Sickness is like a natural thing. You could like eat bacon and get sick. Oh no, arrest the bacon. The bacon got you sick. You have no listen, this is about negative and positive rights. We have a negative right to freedom, to run our business, to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, meaning you can't interfere with it. You have no positive right to not be getting sick. This is the difference between positive and negative rights. I have a negative right to life, meaning you're not allowed to kill me. I do not have a positive right to life, meaning that if someone tries to kill me, you're obligated to actually save me. We're all individuals, and that's the difference between positive and negative. In this instance, the left is arguing for the positive right to not get sick, meaning you are obligated to stay home because at some point you might catch COVID and you might spread it. We don't know. But we have rapid testing. Not particularly effective, but we do. Shouldn't that be enough to make sure we can keep things safe and open? Apparently they don't care. You have a negative right to life, meaning no one can intentionally get you sick by like coughing in your face or something. But if people are going about their business and you want to live, then you must avoid people who might be sick. There's no criminal intent in someone having the flu and then and then it spreads. There could be criminal intent in someone having the flu and then like sneezing on people on purpose. People have been arrested for this, in the past year. But the average person who might be sick and might not know isn't trying to get you sick. You just might get sick. You have no positive right to that. Sorry, it doesn't exist. It's funny to see the SNL guy who's rich ragging on everybody. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'd like to give a shout out to her with my utmost respect for defending the Staten Island protests. She said, the whole point of protesting is to make people uncomfortable. Activists take that discomfort with the status quo and advocate for concrete policy changes. Popular support often starts small and grows. To folks who complain protest demands make others uncomfortable, that's the point. Hear, hear, AOC. Defending those Staten Island bar owners as a New York representative, though not in Staten Island. Certainly she understands the plight of the small business owner and those just trying to get by. I actually mean that literally. But to be honest, I was being facetious about her defending these protests. She's not. She is protesting. She is supporting protest in general, which I agree with. And I do think that AOC is concerned about the working class over the millionaires and the billionaires. I just don't think she can see through her own tribalism. Now, she's talking about defunding the police. Okay. At defunding the police at this point in Staten Island, I'm not gonna argue. I mean it. Oath breakers. Defund the oath breakers. How about that? That sounds good, right? Let me ask you, if you're a conservative, you can comment below. Would you be in favor of taking away money, resources, and authority from police officers who violate their oath to the Constitution? I can already hear the collective yeses. Hey, maybe we have an agreement here. How about we put together a panel that can determine whether or not an officer has violated someone's constitutional rights a certain number of times, and then we agree. People who break their oath to the Constitution, that's the compromise. If the left is complaining that there are these killer cops going around killing people, what sounds like they're violating the Constitution, right? Hey, maybe we got some middle ground here where we can be like, get them oath breakers out of there. We'll bring in some good cops, the same as the left wants and the same as the right wants. Legitimate cops who are working hard to uphold our rights, to protect us. And they do some, procedural fining and things like that, jaywalking, speeding. We can figure out reform for all that stuff, too. But I think we can all agree. One of the left's biggest complaints about the police is that they're violating the rights of people. Boom. There it is. As we watch this Staten Island bar owner get arrested, multiple times now, I think it's fair to point out we're kind of in agreement on, I guess, defunding bad cops, right? Now the conservatives are getting the brunt of it, and I think that's going to whittle away a lot of the support from the cops. Before we go, let me give you one last point. Dr. Fauci says the U.S. will face surge upon surge of COVID cases after the holidays as 2,445 die. Hospitalizations remain above 101,000, and the total death toll soars past 280K. It's going to get worse. The lockdowns are going to get more intense. But I got to point something out. When they say the great reset of capitalism is an anti-lockdown conspiracy, It's not. Plain and simple. If this woman's seating, which is identical to it's identical to what the movie theaters are doing, right next to each other, but hers is unsafe and theirs is safe. Clearly, they're lying about COVID. When high-value business travelers are exempt from quarantine and can fly around and gallivant about the world as they see fit, it's clearly not about quarantine. I think it's more about climate change. These people are trying to, I think early on with COVID, it was really bad. I think they did the lockdown, and the lockdown for the most part worked. And now they're saying, oh, no, we got to do it again because they realized something. Numerous articles came out saying that the earth was healing because of this. Well, to these people, the ends justify the means, so they will lie, cheat, and steal and cause suffering and destruction to your life and take everything from you as long as they get what they want. Welcome to the authoritarian nightmare. That's what it is. This is neo-feudalism, where the ultra elites, the nobles, the lords, high-value people, they say, are allowed to do whatever they want. I'm an essential worker as a media personality. And there's that exemption, right? But then it's just rich people in general are going to get away with this stuff. They're going to do what they want. Did Newsom face any penalties? No. And he went out, twice, party with a bunch of people, including doctors. Nancy Pelosi, Lori Lightfoot, Gretchen Whitmer. Come on, the list goes on. They face no penalty. They're allowed. You are not. It's rules for thee, but not for me, but worse. Radley Balco is his name. He said, here's a quote. Tyranny is what is legal for the government, but illegal for the citizenry. Congratulations. Welcome to tyranny. To see a dude in a car run down an oathbreaker, to me, I'm telling you, man, something's coming. I don't know what, but we are dangerously close to something just finally snapping off. Maybe they've pushed as hard as they can, and the government will start to back away, realizing it's a powder keg about to burst. Or maybe it'll devolve into a left versus right kind of thing, which is my next segment. I think we're heading towards some kind of explosive breakdown. The Republican Party is now in a civil war. You've got this crazy brawl. Did you see what happened with Antifa? Antifa guy got shot. No joke. I'll bring it up in the next segment at 4 p.m. If you want to check that out, here's what you do. First, subscribe, hit the like button, hit that notification bell, then go to the address bar, type this in your address bar, youtube.com/TIMCAST. As soon as you press enter, you will be at my other YouTube channel. Subscribe, and I'll see you all there at 4 p.m.